Have you ever noticed Abraham was not the first one to start heading to the promised land? Yeah. Okay, so check this out. As you're reading the story of Abraham, it usually starts, people look at chapter 12 of Genesis. That's where, you get the headlining, the call of Abraham, right? Or the call of Abram at that time. Well, if you just go back a couple of verses, what you're going to see is genealogy leading to him. And something that's very interesting that we often overlook here is that his father, Terah, was actually from the land of Ur, right? And he started traveling from the land of Ur, heading to, guess where? The land of Canaan. That was his goal. His purpose was heading towards the land of Canaan. But he stopped on the way and he ended up settling in a land called Haran. And it's from there that Abraham is called. So you have Terah, he's leaving the land of Ur, where they're from, right? Both Abram and his father Terah and their family, they leave from their land of Ur and they stop in Haran, but they were on their way to the promised land. And so what's interesting about this is that we can see here God was already preparing what he was calling Abraham into. He was already working and he was thinking a generation ahead and getting Terah, Abram's father, to start heading in that direction. And now this is something to hold on to because we sometimes aren't thinking generations ahead, but know that God is. And you may not understand why you're where you're at. You may not understand how all these pieces are coming together. And you may be questioning, some of the choices that you've made, especially parents, because we make mistakes all the time. Um, right. But sometimes we're thinking about just the now and we're thinking about what can we do today and years to come, but there's something bigger at play. Sometimes we don't realize it, but God is setting up the very calling, the very things that he has for future generations and where he's leading us and the things that he has us involved in and where we end up being settled at. And so you see this move, and something else to hold on to is, look, Abram got all the way to the promised land, right? But we don't see here this resentment towards his father for not making, like, oh, you didn't make it all the way to the promised land. You didn't fulfill the call, because that wasn't Terah's call. Right. And so that's something that we also need to hold on to, is that, our us and our parents, we aren't always going to the same place. That's not the same call that we have, but God is faithful to use that foundation of what he's giving from one generation to the other to build to that place, right? And so it was that move of Terah from the land of Ur to the land of Haran that really helped to start that journey and put Abram in a place where he was going to make it all the way to the promised land. And so hold on to that. That's something that I just found so interesting that stood out to me, was that Terah was on his way there. He didn't make it all the way, but he was on his way there. And then Abram finished that journey to the promised land. And so hold on to that for yourself, for future generations. And just know God is at work. He's thinking generations ahead, and He is going to use what we do today. He's going to use that in the future. What was done in the past, He's using that today. And let us not forget that. Let us be thankful for that, and let us pray that we can be like Terah, where we're going to set up future generations for what God has for them.